wonderful to be here with you all tonight. I wanted to join with everyone in acknowledging that we are here on the land of the Gadigal and the Wongal people and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, and recognise that it always was and always will be First Nations land, and that when we're talking about the horrific ongoing destruction and genocide of Palestinian people, that we need to recognise that the same ongoing displacement, genocide and treatment of First Nations people continue. The glossy brochures that say that we're committed to closing the gap mean nothing when we continue to introduce laws in our parliaments that will lock up more First Nations people and see more First Nations young people displaced from their families and from their communities and their mob. Can I just say a massive thank you to start with to the UTS staff and university community for putting this incredible fundraiser on, and can we put our hands together for everyone that has gone above and beyond. Probably some of them aren't in the room to hear the clap because they're still running around madly trying to organise the event, and just say a massive thank you to all of them. I also want to acknowledge, and I'm not sure if she is still here, but the former Mayor of Marrickville Council, Fiona Byrne, who some of you may know, who I think was probably the first person that got publicly destroyed by an attempt to stand in solidarity with Palestine by supporting a BDS movement on Marrickville Council many, many, many years ago, and I want to pay credit and tribute to her taking that vanguard effort. The irony that when we talk about boycotts and divestment and sanctions for decades, that was seen as somehow a dangerous, destructive and offensive thing to do, when we now watch on our phones and on TV screens the killing and the genocide of tens of thousands of people, and yet somehow a peaceful, direct action like boycotts, divestments and sanctions was the thing that was positioned as offensive, as dangerous, as harmful, is completely unacceptable. The fact that we want to say, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and believe that Palestine should be free from the river to the sea, because wherever you are, wherever you live, if you are Palestinian, you should be free and you should not be living under an apartheid regime. The fact that that is somehow seen as a violent statement is a complete mix-up of reality. The fact that people, and I know that we're here with many university and academic colleagues here and staff from universities, the fact that people from the NTEU, and I shout out to the Unionists for Palestine, were stopped by the New South Wales Police on the footbridge above Parramatta Road while putting up a sign at the end of last year that's read, "Ceasefire now." Just hold those words in your head, right? Ceasefire now. Were told by the New South Wales Police that they had to take the sign down because it was inciting violence, demonstrates where we are currently at in this debate. The fact that we had, before Harmony Day, which let's just remember was actually called the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, until John Howard decided to rebrand it as Harmony Day because heaven forbid we ever mention the words racism. That before Harmony Day, the New South Wales Department of Education sent a memo out to schools to encourage them to remind children and families to not wear anything that would cause harm. And so instead they all wear orange, because apparently orange makes you all feel harmonious, but orange, if you remember, is also the colour of Pauline Hanson's One Nation. The fact that we know that teachers at New South Wales schools were told to not hold up signs or wear their keffiyehs to school for risk that they would cause harm to the children, when we know that the schools have been bombed and destroyed in Gaza and the children have not been to school for months and in so many cases are no longer breathing to be able to read or learn or play. The fact that we saw the Premier of New South Wales after October 7 light up the Opera House in the colours of what was then known to be a government that had been perpetrating apartheid against his citizens as found by Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, and then claimed that those who were distressed by that act, who had families in Gaza on the West Bank and knew full well the 76-year history that had ensued that would see the IDF come in and destroy people's lives, and the Premier dared to say that it was those peaceful protesters that were inciting the violence. And still we have the New South Wales police force in their numbers trying to shut down the weekly protests and stop the pickets and the actions that have occurred, whether it be outside the Prime Minister's office on Marrickville Road, and a shout out, I'm sure, put a show of hands if you spent any time hanging out outside the Prime Minister's office. I'm sure people here did in their numbers. Well done, thank you, good effort. And those people that gather outside of MPs' offices, the people that chant, that yell, that raise their voices. And you know, sometimes the people write some shit on their office bolts in red. They might write a message on there, and people are outraged and they cry, "This is violent, this is an attack. We are feeling unsafe." And that is a complete gaslighting of the fact that what we are highlighting is the fact that the people of Gaza are being destroyed and a genocide is occurring. And the idea that people would bring onto themselves here in one of the safest countries in the world a sense of feeling unsafe when we know what is happening in Gaza and in the West Bank right now at the hands of the Israeli authorities, but also complicit in that is the Australian government and Western governments around the world, and to turn that around and have people here in this country say that they feel unsafe, we need to have some perspective. The reason why people don't want you to wear a scarf, the reason why they don't want you to have a Palestinian badge on your shirt, the reason why they want you to wear orange on Harmony Day, they don't want you to sit outside the Prime Minister's office and remind them, they don't want you to scrawl blood on your hands, they don't want you to turn up to a council meeting when they don't pass a strong BDS motion, is because every time we as individuals and as communities collectively do that, they are staring into the face of the genocide that they are complicit in. And they want to be able to ignore it. They want to be able to think that it is not their problem. They want to be able to think that they can shut their eyes and look away. But we know, because this country is founded on genocide, on colonisation and on invasion, that we understand more than anything that when they look over there and see what they're doing, it's not just a desire to crush the Palestinians. It is an absolute inherent fear that they may need to deliver justice to the people who they have displaced here. It is because they cannot look in the face of the reality that Australia is sadly founded on an incredible racist premise, that they cannot face the fact that actually standing up and doing a shiny little yes vote in a referendum to make you feel good is not the solution to delivering sovereignty and treaties for First Nations people. And they can't understand that when we say to them, you cannot sit here and watch this happen, that we will believe them when they say, but it's not our business. Why are you worried about this locally? It's not our fight. It's not our problem. But we know as a community that we are committed to an idea of equality and justice that goes beyond the boundaries, that goes beyond the silos of local or state or federal government, that goes beyond the boundaries of one electorate or another, that goes beyond the boundaries of one nation state to another, because we understand that our struggle for justice and for peace and for truth goes well beyond any man-made border. And I say man explicitly there, because they were made by the men. And I think that this is where we come in. Because how much more do we do? We are convinced in this room, right? We are convinced that this is shit. This is horrible. It's horrific. It is a nightmare. Then I would say this, that we need to look around for a minute, take a second, look around at the nice humans around you. Yeah, there's good humans there. Turn around, go on, have a look. There's good humans behind you, check it out. We need to remember that we don't win struggles to overthrow these kind of regimes alone. We don't win them by exhausting ourselves and thinking that unless we do everything ourselves, that the whole movement will fall apart. We do them by knowing that sometimes these struggles take years. The survivors of the Nakba know and take hope in the fact that we are coming out on the streets every day. The people who see the funding and the aid and support flooding in from around the world know that the community cares and that the political leaders do not speak for us. And every time you wear your badge, or you take an action, or you do a thing, you have a little moment in your heart of going, I'm so glad that other person also thinks that genocide is really, really fucked. Sorry, I realise there's kids in here, I just swore. I usually am so bad at swearing, and I tried so hard not to swear. I'm sorry, Eve, I'm really sorry. But what we do then is we bring ourselves together as a movement. Because every time that we do those small acts of solidarity, people know that actually there is a growing movement for change. And for the Palestinian people among us, and for the people who are facing increased levels of Islamophobia among us, those small acts of solidarity can show that they are not alone and that we stand with Palestine in solidarity. But beyond that, there is something else. Because what we do in that struggle is that we create a new generation of activists. You think of the people who might have been involved around the Iraq War. You think of the people who were in this room that might have been around in previous wars. You think about the new generation of people that have come for the first time to march on the street and sing and chant, "Free, free Palestine." And they learn to march on the street and they bring that knowledge to the next struggle and the next fight until we achieve peace and justice for all. And so make sure that you remember in these struggles, in the horror that what is occurring and what we are seeing, that we are also building the strength of our movement for the next generation of activists. Because the people that are seeking to cause harm and to oppress us will continue to generate. They will continue to toxically grow throughout the world. And so we must also grow our power. The final thing I will say is this, and that is to say that there is a risk that we lose our sense of hope the longer this goes on, and that's what they want us to do. So let's make sure that we keep mobilising. Let's make sure that we take our actions or our motions to our various community groups or our unions or our other networks and keep talking about Palestine. Because we know that the struggle is real and there, but also we know that there has never been such a mass movement to this level for so long. And with that, we are creating a global solidarity for change. So I want to say thank you all very much for all that you are doing to be here tonight and supporting one cause to be able to make change. But I also want to say that as an Inner West community, we are committed to so much more than one action. And I know from the faces here that with all of you on board, we will one day see an absolutely free Palestine from the river to the sea. Thank you very much.